Laseinde-Owolabi is an educator, author, speaker, and parent coach, dedicated to helping parents to be and caregivers embrace a purposeful, holistic approach to raising children. She believes parenting is more than raising children. It is a call to examine the values and beliefs that shape our lives and create a legacy of impact. A Fulbright alumni and valedictorian graduate with a master's degree in education and curriculum studies from Mount St. Vincent University, Ajoke brings deep expertise in child development, teaching, and curriculum design to our transformative parenting programs. Drawing from our own experience growing up in a challenging environment, Ajoke understands firsthand how parenting shapes children's lives. As lead at the Conscious Parent Hub, she empowers parents to heal, gain clarity, and build strong intentional family systems that help them raise wholesome and impactful children. Through guidance, coaching, courses, and practical tools, her program helps parents move from overwhelmed to actionable strategies that transform everyday family life. Ajoke is also co-founder and vice president of the Discovery Pathway, a registered NGO in Canada, where she has helped restore hope and develop leaders across 3 continents. Her work demonstrates her commitment to building communities where children and parents alike can flourish. She's a devoted wife to her best friend of 15 years and a proud mom.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thank you everyone for sticking with us. Like we said, we are very grateful for your patience with us as we navigated through the hack that happened when we started the meeting earlier. And I'm just so thankful for everyone for taking the time to join us today, and then for all the work that you are doing stewarding the next generation. I think it's remarkable work, and it's work that has a lot of reward in it. So I'm very grateful to you for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. And I'd like you to let me know in the chat once you can see my screen. Okay, thank you so much for sharing, for helping with my screen. And I'm just going to let you know once I would like us to move to the next slide. So would you mind moving to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay. So today we're actually going to be examining the topic, how to build a formidable family system in a dysfunctional culture. And before we dive in, if you know me already, you know that I love to share stories. I would like to share a bit about my own journey into parent coaching with you. And this is especially for those who may not know much about me yet. So, and I've compiled this. I have an excerpt that I'm going to read to you, and we're going to go on with the conversation from there. So just please listen in. So I recall the first time I stumbled on the right words to caption some of my traumatic childhood experiences. I was in junior secondary school, and my classmates had brought up a conversation about masturbation, pornography, lesbianism, and related topics. While many of the things shared served to reinforce my sense of shame about my experiences, the conversation equipped me with some tools to unpack those experiences. And then as I heading towards a possible second suicide attempt and in the throes of depression, I eventually mustered the courage to discuss my experiences with my mom. I was about 9 years old at this time. I recall standing timidly near the brown door that separated her room from the living room. It had taken so much courage to work myself up before eventually making this move. Yet, I still couldn't bring myself to share all the details of my big secret. I timidly blurted out that one of our female neighbors had molested me and waited to see her reaction. I didn't mention the excruciating pain the experience had caused me, the dark shadow it had cast on my life, or other formative experiences with abuse. I didn't mention my first suicide attempt at age 7 and my daily struggle with suicidal thoughts. I didn't mention that I had picked up self-pleasuring habits and coping strategies that had skewed my sense of self and made me feel worthless, scarred for life, and unworthy of life and living. I didn't mention that being myself had become a painful experience, sometimes almost too painful to bear. I was essentially testing the waters. I recall my mom becoming very angry, and at the time, I could only interpret her reaction as directed at me, especially since I had to apologize after my confession. This incident seemed to confirm a belief I had struggled with for years, that this was all my fault. I left that conversation feeling even worse, with the painful realization that I had to face my demons alone. It felt like I was screaming for help in a room filled with people who couldn't hear me. And that was the last time the issue was mentioned throughout my childhood. That story I just shared with you is a part of my life story. And for decades afterwards, could we please move to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, thank you. For decades afterwards, despite external success, I struggled with depression, I struggled with anxiety, going through life muted, and I also began to notice other neurological impacts. So one of the things that came up for me, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so one of the things that came up for me is that I noticed that I struggled with organization and time management skills. And the first time that I was actually placed in a situation where I could even notice that that was the case, because you know how, you are in school and many times maybe you had to memorize things, like different parts of your learning abilities were called upon. But at this time, it was actually during my teaching practice. I must have been in my third year at the time. And I realized that I had all the content to put together a lesson plan. So I had the information. I was I love teaching. And so that wasn't like my fear. But what I saw happening was that when I wanted to bring information together into an organized format, I really struggled. I was literally staying up all night, not trying to find content, not trying to psych myself up to be able to teach, but just to put the same information I had right in front of me into an organized format, that is, put it in a sequence that would make it efficient for a lesson plan. And of course, at the time, I didn't even know what was happening. And remember, we're talking about some of the neurological implications of, having traumatic experiences, right? So I didn't even know that was what was happening. I also recall that I had, freeze responses, and it's only now or in recent years that I've started to learn that these were the things that were happening to me. So I didn't also know that what was happening to me, would be called a freeze response. So when somebody would say something that probably triggered something for me, I would literally freeze. I would be tongue-tied. In public situations where I was expected to speak. And here I was, seemed to have things going on for me. I recall during my time in the US, actually, because I was on a US government-funded scholarship, and I was there as a cultural ambassador from Nigeria. And so I had a lot of outings. I was meant to be presenting at different schools. I was meant to be meeting delegates from like different countries. So this was a beautiful experience that my academic prowess, so to speak, seemed to have opened that door for me. But I was struggling personally because I realized that I didn't have, I was just encountering some things that I really couldn't understand. Some of the things were, impulse control. I had trouble regulating my emotions. I realized that I was impulsive in some ways. I also realized that I was kind of inflexible in my thinking in some ways. And then there's this big one, shame and self-criticism. And that was a huge thing for me, because my internal narrative was very, very, it was shame-based. There was a lot of internal criticism. There was a lot of feeling unworthy. There was a lot of asking of what was wrong with me. And I believe that some of that explained why I struggled with suicidal ideations for a long time, because at the end of it, having experienced those things and not even having the words or the tools to unpack them, I would just tell myself, I'm too broken to be in this world. Why do I have to be here? And that's why throughout the years, I kept on having suicidal ideations. And I think that the words of Elizabeth Gilbert, it puts this idea of shame and self-criticism, which I found to be a huge, huge thing for many people as well. It puts it very succinctly. Can we please move to the next slide? Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. So Elizabeth Gilbert here, she says self-loathing is a rampant virus in our contemporary culture. It's so prevalent as to have become the default setting in most of our minds. Seldom do we even stop to question whether it is normal or healthy to live within a consciousness that is constantly attacking, judging, and insulting itself. Unfortunately, this kind of self-loathing is something that we see, across board in many cases. we find that, and the question that leaves me with is, if we have not learned to accept ourselves, even as parents, how do we accept the flaws in our children? And there will be many, because every child is on a journey towards mastery. Can we please move to the next slide? Thank you. Okay. Go back one slide, please. Back. And go back one slide. Thank you. Okay. So, okay, thank you so much. And the truth remains that even today, we are not truly far from this reality that I've described, that I experienced. Research shows that African and Black immigrant children and youth in Canada face elevated risks of mental health challenges, often linked to tensions between home and mainstream culture, as well as identity struggles. So these are some things that people are still experiencing today. And can we please move to the next slide? Thank you. And so I'd like to share with you what drives our work at the Conscious Parent Hub. For me, it's almost hard to believe that many of the things that I shared with you that truly, truly marked all of my experiences, like I said, attempted suicide at age 7, started being abused and molested around age 4. So this is something that I actually had to walk through for most of my life, right? And for me to get to a point where I can say that these things are starting to become a thing of the past, I'm starting to realize that, oh, they are becoming so far away from me that I'm trying to ensure that I can still pass on the lessons. I'm trying to ensure that I'm documenting. I'm trying to ensure that I'm walking through my process in a way that I can pass this on to people as well who might still be experiencing this. And I can also pass this on to parents as well, to help them better parent their children and provide an enabling, a parenting environment for them. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that drives our work at the Conscious Parent Hub. And one of it is the need to ensure that all children begin life as adults with an advantage. The truth is that not all adults begin with an advantage, and many times it's tied to, the childhood environment and many of the experiences that they've had. And also the understanding that some of the definitive moments in our childhood happened in moments of time. So it didn't take many of those things that I described that came up in my own childhood, mostly didn't even take up to an hour at a time. So many of it happened in snippets of time, and they were still quite defining in shaping some of even the conditionings that I had. It was later that I started to realize that many of those things conditioned me, according to research, for mental health challenges. And that's why I really struggled with depression, anxiety, and all of those things that marked my teenage years, even into adulthood. And it's also important that we realize that the parenting environment is what sets the foundation for who we become as adults, and also an understanding of the hard work and costs that reparenting takes. To retrace one step, to course correct, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of grace. And in fact, not all adults with adverse childhood experiences will ever have the opportunity to course correct. And that's just the sobering reality. It's not everybody who has the opportunity to heal. I could have been dead by now based on how many times I had attempted suicide. Thankfully, I wasn't successful at it. So personally, the fact that I've been in all those dark places that our children wouldn't have to go if we had the right resources, the tools, the support, and the ongoing crisis that we, myself and my husband, continue to see in our work. One of the guiding principles for us as well is the understanding that parenting without embarking on a healing journey or developing the necessary skills is one of the most dangerous and quiet gambles of the 21st century. As a society, we talk about gambling, and it's frowned upon in many cases. However, we don't talk about the gamble that we are making when we don't invest in our own healing as well. And sometimes people think that it's only people that have gone through big T traumas like myself that need healing. But the truth is, every adult will have to unlearn specific mindsets in order to build the kind of family that they want. And that is healing as well. So regardless of how we were raised, regardless of how beautiful our background was, there are still many things that we would have to unlearn. There are still many new paradigms or new ways of thinking or mental models, as I call them, that we will need to imbibe as adults if we are going to build a better family and not go back into our default setting. Can we please move to the next slide? And I think for me, sharing stories like mine is actually quite important, because in a world that, that peddles many narratives or different narratives that could keep people stuck in victimhood, it's important to share that there are actually people that have walked through this path and, have healed and are healing and are doing great work as well. So I think those kind of stories are important. So I'm just going to work you through some other mental models. And the first one here is that becoming a parent happens in a moment, and becoming a great parent actually takes a lifetime of learning, unlearning, and growth. So parenting is learned. It is not assumed. We don't become intentional parents or become great parents just because we have had children, or at the time that we become, we have the child physically, we give birth to a child. That's not when we become great parents. It actually takes work, just like the same way that we go to school to become a doctor, for instance. We don't just become a doctor because we've been exposed to a lot of scientific information and information about body anatomy all around us, us, and maybe on the internet, and maybe even in our own lives. You're like, I have a body, I have an anatomy, I have a neurological system, so therefore I can be a doctor. No, we actually have to be put through a process. And many times in parenting, these skills can be acquired as well. The other thing that I would like to leave us with before Shefe comes up is to kind of understand the power of time, because I find that many parents talk about not having time, and in reality we are actually very pressed for time in today's world because there are many things that demand our attention. But how I see it is that to escape the relentless demand or colonization of our time in today's world, we may need to say no to certain things. And in a sense, we may need to pay ourselves back with our own time. So it means that we need to intentionally carve out time and focus on the things that truly matter. And I believe that for everyone on this call, if parenting doesn't matter, if family doesn't matter, you wouldn't even be here. So it's to understand that these are the things that we need to pay attention to. And also here, I say that great intentions are not alone and cannot help people parent differently. Many of us began our parenting journey saying, I won't be like this person. I won't be like this model that I saw growing up. And many times we find ourselves reverting back to those default settings. And it's just a knowledge gap that can be filled. And I normally like to see this as gaps and real great data that we can just work on. So it's not really a problem to find that we don't know something. We can always learn. The other thing I would like to share here is that the quality of the parenting environment we create is directly proportional to the quality of healing we have experienced. And just before I continue, I would like you to put in the chat if any of these mental models or quotes resonate with you so far. So if there's anything that really stood out to you that I've shared so far in this conversation, please put it in the chat. The other thing is that when we don't take responsibility for our healing, we bleed on those closest to us, including our children. And what knowledge does is that it empowers us to push past the barriers of our personal experiences or training. The truth is that we're raising children in an environment entirely different from the one that we were raised in. And so there are many things that we might not have had personal experiences in, that knowledge would help us to be able to still provide the kind of support that the children need, because whether we grew up here, and that's for parents in diaspora, or even just considering the fact that we are raising our children in a modern world, regardless of how we grew up, our children will still have experiences that might not have been a part of our experiences. And how do we support them through that? Can we please move to the next slide? Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So I would like to share with you briefly about what the Conscious Parent Hub is. At the Conscious Parent Hub, our goal is to be the leading global community for conscious parenting. We aim to empower parents, caregivers, future parents to cultivate nurturing family environments that support both a child's holistic development and a parent's personal growth. And you will notice that we're not just talking about the child here, because it's also important that the parent is empowered to grow, to become the leaders that they are meant to be, because these are some of the things that we also want to model to our children. And I believe that Shefe would share some examples around this that he has seen in his work with youth, further down the line in this conversation. So we aim to equip parents with guidance, with meaningful support, with community. We're helping to heal and empower today's generation so that we can raise the next generation with clarity, with purpose, and the power to impact the world. So what do? We do have an academy, And what we do is that we provide education, coaching, shared support, structural accountability, and transformative resources that help individuals and families break limiting beliefs, embrace intentional parenting, and walk back from the kinds of children they want to raise to the daily actions that will birth these outcomes within a community of other intentional parents. So our bold vision is to empower 1,000 parents and reach 3,000 children by the end of 2026, creating a ripple effect of healing, growth, and legacy in families across the world through the academy that we run and also through our nonprofit arm. Please move to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to end this segment by sharing a quick testimonial from one of the parents in the hub with you. And here, this parent shares, she says, to summarize the coaching session so far, I will say a sleeping giant has been awakened. I was very pessimistic about many things, parenting included, even though I wanted the best for my kids. I kind of left it in God's hands for them to become what He wants them to be. I was not consistent in my approach as I was not seeing immediate results. With the coaching session so far, I have been able to understand that nothing just happened. People make things happen. I realized that I am capable and I have the strength to parent them. I was saying to myself lately that even if the coaching sessions end today, I believe I have been set on the right course or path to success in my parenting journey. I have also been equipped with the right mindset to continue in other aspects of life. And what I want us to think about is that when a parent who is ready to do the work is paired with the right resources and support, these are the kind of testimonies that we see. These are the kind of results that we birth. So not just impacting the children, but of course, the life of the parent as well. Thank you so much for listening to this segment. Please continue to put it in the chat if there's anything that has resonated with you so far, anything that you're thinking about along the lines of our topic for today. And I would like to invite our beautiful hosts to continue this session. Thank you.
Laseinde-Owolabi is a wholeness coach, as well as a co-founder and president of the Discovery Pathway, a faith-based non-profit organization dedicated to restoring hope, rebuilding lives, and raising leaders. With a bachelor's degree in medical rehabilitation and over 6 years of clinical practice as a physical therapist, Tolu's career took a transformative turn in 2018 when he set out to seek answers to deeper questions about healing and human potential. Since then, he has cultivated a multidisciplinary career spanning physical health, mental health, addiction, social services, and restorative justice. Tolu holds advanced training, diplomas, and certifications in cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), trauma-informed care, substance use and concurrent disorders, harm reduction, conflict restoration, motivational interviewing, neuroplasticity, and emotional intelligence, among others. His professional experience includes roles in addiction recovery, harm reduction, disability services, intense care management, and restorative justice, supporting individuals and families through significant transitions and challenges. As a leader in holistic, trauma-informed, and faith-rooted care, Tolu is driven by a purpose to help others discover their inherent potential and live impactful lives. His approach combines evidence-based practices with practical frameworks for transformation at the personal, family, and organizational level. Tolu is a passionate husband to his beloved wife Ajoke, and together they are raising 2 beautiful sons in Calgary, Canada. Tolu brings a wealth of experience to the subject of building formidable family systems in today's complex culture, equipping audience with the actionable tools and insights for lasting change.
If we are going to solve the world's most pressing problems, we must pay attention to what is happening in the smallest unit of the society, talking about the family. I want to paint a picture for us with the hope that every one of us, we are going to leave this meeting with a vision that is going to decide or influence most of our decisions going forward, hopefully. And I'm going to start by saying this: the future of every nation that you see is not shaped in parliament. is not shaped in the Senate or whatever it is that is called in your country. The future is shaped in the homes, quietly in our homes. What we see in government, what we see in politics, in sports, even in the religious sectors and different other spheres of influence are consequences of the quality of mind produced in the families over a period of time. In other words, the environment you are in, the culture that you have absorbed has a way of discipling, or that you have exposed your children to has a way of discipling your children on a daily basis. And if we are not intentional about building, culture is going to do a more effective job than we do. In other words, there is a call for every one of us to be very conscious and intentional when it comes to family building. My session today is not about perfect parenting. It's to help us see the environment that we are living in today, the reality, especially for those of us that are raising parents in a culture that is different from our home culture. And this is applicable even to those that are living in their home country as well. We are raising children in a culture that has projected different qualities that seem to be opposing to many of our desires when it comes to what we hope to see in the lives of our children. And a typical examples of those qualities is we see in our culture that there is what I called roles being redefined, truths being distorted. We see authorities being undermined, values being confused. We see identities that are fragmented. We see how disconnection has been normalized in our society today. And many of you may not fully get what I'm saying. From my work experiences over the years, for about 8 years now, have had the opportunity to meet people in the lowest phase of their lives, from teenagers to youth to adults in different, it's not even about a particular profession. I've seen people that are professionals, engineers, doctors, paramedics. I've also seen youth that are navigating the educational system. I've seen those that do not even have the opportunity to continue their education. I've worked with individuals that are homeless. I've worked with individuals that are, suffering from one kind of addiction or the other, or mental health situations. So I've seen people in the lowest phases of their lives. And I can tell you that the characteristics that we see, or the qualities rather that we see in our society, is not one that you and I as a parent want to expose our children to without having a backup plan. Because we are not going anywhere. We are in this society, we are in this environment, and we need to have a backup plan. And that's why we are here to, to help you see that there is a backup plan. It is not an hopeless situation. There is a way to raise a formidable family, even in the society that we are living in today. And if we are going to raise this formidable family, there is one thing we need to do, which is to change our perspective. We need to change the way we see family. We need to go beyond seeing families as relationship or the emotional connections that we have with each other. It's beautiful, but we need to go beyond that, because what we are battling against it has nothing to do with relationship. It's stronger than that. We are talking about systems. And you can't use relationships to fight system. It takes a system to fight another system. It takes a kingdom to fight another kingdom. You can't see individual fighting a country and succeed. It takes a country to wage war against another country. So every one of us as parents, we need to approach family as a system. Because the danger in our society today is that if we are not intentional about building our children in a formidable family system, then the culture will build them for us. Let me give you an example. When you look at the justice system, for example, which I'm pretty much familiar with, I'm currently in the restorative justice system. So I have a lot of relationship with, the crown, defense, lawyer, the court system in general. And I've had to work with a lot of youth from age 13 up to adults till 99 years of age. And I can tell you some of the things that I've seen. I'm hoping I'll be able to share some stories with you towards the end of my presentation. So stay tuned for this story. So when you look at the justice system was not actually the system that was in place in the first place to bring about justice to conflict within the society. The modern justice system that we know today came in the 16th to the 18th century. And the reason why that system was put in place is so that, they can inflict some suffering as deterrence so that the offenders can be shamed, so that the state can demonstrate power. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. Okay, I'm going to do that now. Okay. I'm so excited to add value to each of our lives, and I forgot about sharing my screen. Okay, let me know if you can see. Just a moment. Okay, how is that? Awesome. So yeah, this is what I was sharing the other time, talking about the society we are living in today. This is our reality. Just imagine that. So the justice system, as I was saying, this is what, this is why it came in the 16th to the 18th century. But prior to that time, the priority of justice was not to inflict any form of suffering. As a matter of fact, it was not to shame the offender. It was restorative in nature. Justice was communal. You see elders, they sit together to mediate conflict. You see restitutions from offenders. And the goal was to repair, not to remove. When you go to the educational system, when the modern educational system came on board as well, you realize that the goal was more to bring about order and uniformity. It erodes the uniqueness that each and every one of us has as a human being. We started to talk about career instead of calling. You see that? Whereas there is there is nothing we can do about the systems that we see today. The justice system, we still have the punitive system ongoing, even though there is a restorative justice by the side, which is upcoming. We have the educational system. They are not going anywhere. So the goal is not to remove them. The goal is to reclaim the role of the family in the lives of our children. Although the educational system prepares our children for the society to join the workforce, it is the family that really prepares them for life. And this is why we need to see family as a system. If we are going to restore formation at home, then we have to see family as a system. If we must reclaim the identity of our children, if we must reclaim moral authority, if the family must reclaim emotional safety and purpose transmission, then we must see family as a system. And how are we going to transition into seeing family as a system? Every system has pillars. And I'm going to introduce you to 4 pillars that makes for a family to become a system. Okay, if you need to take a screenshot, please do if you need to write down. Please do. The first pillar is what I call vision, which I believe is the most important of them all. Vision is the snapshot of your purpose, because every child, including you and I, that comes into this world comes with a purpose. There is no manufacturer that made a product without a purpose. As a matter of fact, purpose precedes product. You see that? So every child, your children, male, female, they have a purpose. And in order for you to nurture them into that uniqueness so that they can manifest, maximize their potential, we need to have a snapshot of their purpose. And that's what we call vision. And this is the same with a family, because every purpose must be nurtured in an appropriate soil. It's like a seed that you need to plant. You see that? So as a parent, we have a responsibility to have a vision for our children, a vision for our family. That's why in the Conscious Parent Academy, our framework is 3 steps, right? It starts with the parent, which is the leader. Then it goes to the parent going through a process of healing themselves, where they can heal their mindset, their perspective, to the end that they can curate a family system which will become the soil upon which these seeds that we call children will grow up and become the best version of themselves and live their most impactful life. It starts with a vision. And the question of vision is, where are we going to? What is our destination? What is it that we want this family to be known for? What is it that you desire for your children? That's the question of vision. Without wasting our time, I'll jump to the second pillar, which is connection. When you understand the vision, or when you have a vision for your children, then the next step is connection, because you cannot lead without connecting to whoever you want to lead. Leadership is about inspiration. You want to inspire people so that they also can walk on the same path that you are already walking on. Because if you are going nowhere, you can't lead anyone. So vision gives you a destination, and purpose is the journey that leads you to the destination. So you want to hold the hands of your children to walk the path of purpose to the end that you get to that destination, which is the vision that you have captured. And it takes connection to do that. Connection brings about emotional safety. Are we safe with you? That's the question that your children is asking in their mind. Am I safe to open up to mommy or to daddy? Do you have the time to gift your presence to them and your attention? It speaks to connection. You see that? Connection creates the communication pathway as well. And then we move to the next pillar, which is identity. When you are able to establish a connection with a vision in mind, then you can begin to invest into the mind of your children to the end that they have a sense of who they are. Because it is possible for a product to be created in a certain way, but when it gets to the hand of the user, if the manual is not well read, it can become a disaster in the hand of the user. So even though the creator has spoken about the destiny of the child even before the child comes, there is a need for the child to identify with their identity. And this is the assignment of you and I as a parent, to help them unfold gradually to the point that they can have the right sense of identity, so that they can begin to live out, the design that was put in place even before they find expression. And the final step is structure. How do we function on a daily basis? Because time is a currency. Time doesn't change anything. Time only reveals the wisdom that you have put in place. Everything, your decisions, the consequences of your decisions, the steps you are taking, and all of that, time will reveal it. So there is a need to bring about structure. Structure is putting a methodical system in place for the administration of knowledge in order to educate your children to the end that they can live their most impactful life, even as they are growing gradually in the family environment or the home environment. So these four pillars are the foundations for building a successful family. Okay, now if you put these pillars in place, they are simple system health indicators that you can actually use to diagnose your family. They are simple, not all there is. We can't begin to list all of them, but I put a few of them in place that we can just take home from this meeting and ask ourselves some questions from there. And these are signals. Okay, this is not an attempt to talk about, the fact that you are not doing something well. It's not a tag for failure or for success. It's an indicator. It's a signal. It's an opportunity for us to diagnose ourselves and see the health of our family. And there are many other indicators that we can use, but these are few ones that I put in place just for the purpose of this presentation. When you establish the four pillars that I just showed to you, you begin to see that there are clear roles in the family. You begin to see that there are shared values because now you have a vision for the family. The vision dictates the values, and every member of the family understands the values within the family. And with values in place, boundaries are easy to set. So when you put rules in place, it will not feel random. Discipline will not feel unfair. You see that? The children have clarity. They can predict what is going to happen in their home. They know where they are going. There's communication pathways. They know that they can communicate their intention to their parents. They know that they can open up without being shamed. There is emotional safety. There's accountability. All of these things, they are part of the indicators that helps you to, just diagnose the system that you are operating right now. Now, I need to reset your expectation at this point because when it comes to building a formidable family system, we are not talking about a perfect family. This is not about having a perfect family. No, this is not about having a conflict-free family. It's not about having a challenge-free families. As a matter of fact, conflict and challenges are good because they are also signals that helps you to establish further understanding that will ground both you as a parent and your children in the vision that you are trying to achieve within the family. So we are not talking about perfection. We are talking about building. I hope that makes sense. So a formidable family is a family that is rooted in identity. You know who you are. Is a family that is structured by values, is a family that is anchored in love, is a family that has resilience even under pressure, is a family that is able to adapt without losing the truth. Remember, we are not going anywhere. We are in this system. So every family with a robust system must be able to adapt without losing their truth as they journey through the system that you are currently in. I've taken the time to study some of my encounters with individuals that I've had to work with, especially within the restorative justice system, where I facilitate dialogue between offenders, victims, crime impact session to help individuals, especially youths from the age of 13 and above, to reflect on the consequences of their actions and the impact of those actions on themselves, on the victims, on their family and the community at large. And I've seen patterns among immigrants, first generation immigrants, second generation immigrants, and even those that are not immigrants. And I took time to highlight a few of those patterns that I've noticed, because if you do not understand patterns within your environment, it will be difficult for you to curate system that will be able to stand strong even amidst everything that is happening in that environment. And part of what I've noticed is an average youth, 15, 14, 13 years old, I'm amazed that many of them already have the language to express the fact that their parents are struggling, that they are poor, they are not doing well financially. They would say, we are immigrants, we came to this country, and my parents are struggling a lot, they are going through a lot, and they do not want to be an additional burden to their parents. And the only way they would succeed in doing that is to adopt whatever opportunity that presents itself to them. And many times this gets them in trouble with the law. Individuals have had to get weapons to rob other people of, their belongings just because they do not want to put burdens on their parents. You see that? So many of the immigrant parents are living in survival mode. And it's not because they choose to live in survival mode. We are immigrants as well, and we understand the pressure that we face as an immigrant. They're having to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and in order to keep the family together and put food on the table. But many times we never really pause and ask ourselves questions. These children are beginning to fill the gap. And I've seen that. Another thing they would say is they do not want to be like their parents. I've had individuals that had to engage in, criminal activities just to get things to resell again and make money. And saw the need to have a mentor. And guess what? Took a drug dealer as a mentor. Someone that was deported from a country, and then painted a picture that, I'm living large now. I said, this person, the moment I turned 18, I'm traveling to wherever that my mentor is and build a life there. At the age of 14, imagine already checking the vehicle of your teachers. That I noticed that even our teachers are not using vehicles like BMW and Benz. So even to, going into the workforce is not the way out. And all of this is motivated by the love that they have for their family. A family that is living in survival mode, that makes their challenges to be visible to their children. You see that? Another one that we have seen is for immigrants. Just recently, I had to work with an individual who also is an immigrant and a firstborn in the family. And I've seen this trend as well, especially for firstborns. They become parents prematurely. They carry the burden of their family. They see themselves as the person that should shoulder the responsibility of the family. And because of this pressure, many of them get involved in different criminal behaviors. I'm not even talking about the impact of that traumatic experience in their own life as a person. I'm still talking about the impact in the community, the neighborhood itself. When we bring it closer to the impact on the child, I can't count the number of individuals I've worked with that they do not even have language to express how they feel. I remember working with an individual some times ago, and an adult, and after a few meetings, I noticed that his face lit up. And I was curious. I can be really curious and ask questions anyway. I was curious, what is happening? And then he said something very profound. He said, "You have given me my voice." And I was wondering, what do you mean by that? He said, I've worked with many people, but they just count me as numbers. None of them has actually seen me as a person. But you have given me my voice. And I need to say this, I wasn't doing anything special other than connection, one of the pillars. And that's why the foundation of everything that we do at the Conscious Parent Academy is connection. And this brings us back to the family system, where we raise children as just an object in the family that everything happens to, but they never have a voice in the family. You create the rules in your bedroom. They will be the one to obey the rules. You come up again with another law. They will be the one to obey it. And every time you show up, they don't know what to expect again. They are exasperated. You see that? Because they don't feel like they are a part of the family. Because family is the first place where a child feels that sense of belonging. That's when they start to feel like they are part of something that is bigger than them. And if we rob them of that opportunity, it means we have deprived them of something bigger as they grow up in life. Because the impact of the experiences that the child has, you won't see most of it in their childhood. Most of it will be seen in adulthood. My wife was sharing the other time about the impact of our experiences as a child in our adulthood. You see that? And I've seen this pattern again and again. And this is why we also have a children discipleship framework that we have built to not just help the parent to know how to create that home environment where their children can be nurtured, but also to equip them with the knowledge that is needed to approach their day-to-day living. This discipleship framework speaks about the key areas that are very important when it comes to the formation of a child, and also the patterns that we have seen in our experiences working with different people in different walks of life. So as you can see on your screen, if you want to take a screenshot, you can do that. Identity is a big part. Heritage is very important, which I feel is one of the things that we have left behind. Even in the religious circle, we talk about love, we talk about belonging, we talk about worthiness and all that. But when it comes to cultural and family ancestry, we never really talk about that. Naming a unique blueprint. If it is just for this one, you should be in the academy. I actually met a young man, and we just started having a conversation. He walked into our office, and I was asking him how he spent his weekend and all of that. And the conversation got to that point where I got to realize that he was not originally from here. So I asked him where he came from. He told me. I was like, when was the last time you went back home? And his response was interesting. He said home was no longer home, that the last time he went, it was not the home that he left behind. He said, where where I am right now is not my home. The place I should call home doesn't feel like home again. So I see an individual that is just on a perpetual journey, that is running consistently without having a place to pause, to relax, to reflect. And that's what home is meant to do. And that's why this framework is very powerful and important, that every one of us needs to understand the role of cultural and family ancestry when it comes to raising the next generation. This is our vision. The vision for the Conscious Parent Academy is to empower 1,000 parents and reach 3,000 children by the end of 2026. It's a bold vision, and that's why we are inviting you to be a part of this. It's not a program, it's a movement, and it starts with you and I. The price of a healthy family, the price that every one of us as parents will need to pay in order to sustain a healthy family, is time, presence, and emotional engagement. I want you to just pause for a moment, because this is the last thing I'm going to say. Pause for a moment. Time, presence, and emotional engagement. And if you think about it, you will realize that these exact things are the same thing that the society demands from you in exchange for money. Exactly the same things. And when we make the money, we go back to spend the money to buy back time so that we can spend it on recovery and self-care. And the cycle goes on and on. And this is why we are inviting you to the Conscious Parent Academy. This is why we created it, not to give you information, but to give parents systems. Part of the things we cover is how to move from survivor to significance, how to give our children an abundant mindset instead of scarcity mindset, how to redefine success, building wealth as a family, understanding the invisible forces that shapes life within society, within our societies, leadership and legacy. These are just a few things that we are going to be focusing on in that academy. And at this point, I'm going to put a stop to to all that I'm sharing with you. But I want you to know that if we want to stop reacting to everything that is happening around us, we need to start building intentionally. So the real question is not, do I love my children? The real question is, am I consciously building the system that will guarantee the outcome I desire? Am I jumping from one axe to the other rather, or building with timeless principles? Am I building in isolation or with a community of like-minded parents? Am I sacrificing my purpose to build, or building while also fulfilling my purpose? We help parents build systems that produce wholeness, legacy, and generational impact. This is important, without abandoning their purpose. Thank you.
Any other questions or clarifications? While we wait for that, I just want to put out a call again. We have 50 slots available to become a founding member. So in order for you to enroll to be part of that, the link is in the bio, and you can click the link and you'll get more details and the websites that the link is going to take you to. I think I see a question here. Let me see. Okay. Question: how do we let our kids know that they are not and should not feel the need to support parents at that young age? I'm going to repeat the question. How do we let our kids know that how do we let our kids know that they are not and should not feel the need to support parents at that young age? From our speakers who want to go, Bertolu, would you like to answer this question? I think that this is in line with some of the things that you spoke to.
When you look at, which I think I touched briefly, the most important thing, which is the foundation, is connection. Connection is very important. But the downside to connection is that it also exposes your insecurity as a parent as well. And that is why when you look at what is on your screen now, the first step to building a family system is the healing of the parent himself. The greatest impact of healing journey is felt on the mind, the change in your mindset. Because the way we communicate with our children is very important. Every child comes with so much expectation, and those expectations are met via connection. You see that? Because the human framework depends on connection and dependency. Whatever you connect with, you depend on. So when we are communicating with our children as a parent, we must be very careful not to project our own fears towards them, not to project our own insecurity towards them. Let me give you an example. We are immigrants as well. And the other day, our son came back home and he started to share about a game that he played with his friend at school. And anyone that wins the game, one of the friend, anchored the game. Anyone that wins the game, they will have to, there is a reward, which is money. And the friend said that they got the money from home. Apparently, the friend stole the money from home. And my son said he won the game, but he rejected the money. And we asked him, why did you reject the money? He said, because I know we don't lack money. We have all we need. Now, and that's true. But that's true when it comes to what we have communicated to them, the abundance mindset. And so I told us that when we establish connection and the communication pathway is there, it's very easy to set boundaries as well. The fact that you want them to know that you are there to provide for them doesn't absolve them of responsibilities as well, but you need to set the boundaries. Responsibility is not, don't do this because we don't have money to do it. If you break it, there's no money to pay for it. Oh. No, that means you are passing the scarcity mindsets to them. Okay. Answer the why question. Many of these challenges will be solved if, as parents, we are equipped to answer the why questions. And I always say this, one of the greatest expression of love from a parent to a child is by answering their why questions. You'll notice that every child at a certain age, from age 3, 4, 5, 6, and above, they'll begin to ask a lot of why questions out of curiosity. They are trying to form their own sense of identity. And if you want to love them at that point, you don't just love them with emotion, you love them with knowledge by answering those why questions. I hope that makes sense.
Just in the absence of any question, I think that previous question has been adequately addressed. And if there are follow-up questions, do feel free to reach out to us. So you can always reach out to us as well if you have questions, or if there are specific resources that you are looking to find as well for parenting, or if you have questions about the academy as well, please feel free to reach out to us. And just one thing that I wanted to share here as well is just this crisis of access. So the point is not that as parents we don't have access to the information on different things about parenting. But the truth is that there are many parents around us. I have a worldview that says that everything around us, everything we see is about parenting. So for instance, when a child becomes an adult, we don't ask them what kind of food they were fed with as children. We ask them what kind of information, was fed to their minds. And this is what actually determines the quality of adults they become. And so in that sense, if we walk it back, we then begin to see that all the agents of socialization, for instance, that we learned when we were younger, the media, religious organizations, our peers, all those people in one way or the other have parented us. And in fact, social media right now is a very, very big player in the parenting game. So it is parenting us by shaping our minds, by shaping our convictions. But what I always say is that, there are many resources out there that we can find. But when the going gets tough, when we have questions, who do we turn to? What community do we belong to? And also when the going gets tough, it's harder to stick to something that is just maybe a hack that we found somewhere. And also in many cases, these things are not even, contextualized, because many times with parenting, we talk more about principles. And I hope that that's something that has been communicated throughout this session, is that it's more about the principles that undergird what parenting could be. And then these principles are taken into unique family situations, distilled to ensure that it fits into the current family situation, also the kind of children, because we all know that it's not one parent that raises 3 children. Each of those children will experience a different parent. And that's just the reality of it, because every child has their uniqueness. So we are going to apply these principles in our own parenting landscape and then begin to see the results. So of course, there is a lot of access to information, but wisdom usually would come with a cost. And this is where we have to bunch together into communities as well to ensure that we have that support. And then there's this idea of it takes a village to raise a child. And as immigrant families as well, we all know that we don't have that village around us. So this village is something that we are intentionally curating as well through the academy. And we hope that you will join us as we go along on that journey. So I'm going to pass it on to our hosts to just round up the session. And thank you once again for joining in.
All right, thank you so much. For you, I know that every one of us here has a dream to be better parents and to build the next generation. So thank you so much for counting yourself as a vessel to be used for the next generation and for you to also be a tool of impact. We are so glad you joined us here. Again, please take advantage of the early bird. We have 50 slots. Click the link that is in the chat. If our admin can please post it again. We're going to be here for a couple of minutes before we shut down, just in case you want to click the link and just go through it. The link is going to take you to our website and there'll be more information there. Thank you so much again for an amazing session. We couldn't have had this without you.